Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Greetings, X-Zone Nation. This is Afterlife researcher Mark Macy at SpiritFaces.com. And I'd like to wish Rob, Laura, and X-Zone Nation listeners from all around the world and beyond a very happy holiday season and a healthy, prosperous, spiritually filled new year.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Trying to buy that last gift or two, not really in the Christmas mood. Standing right in front of me was a little boy waiting anxiously, pacing round like little boys do, and in his hands he held a pair of shoes, and his clothes were worn and old. He was dirty from head to toe, and when it came his time to pay, I couldn't believe what I heard him say. Sir, I wanna buy these shoes for my mama, please. It's Christmas Eve and these shoes.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host. And your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable and X-Zone TV, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, South America, the Pacific Rim, Australia, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. If you'd like to give us a call toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, you can always chat with us here in our studios by typing in the MSN address, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, my first guest of this hour and tonight is Jerry Smith. We're going to be talking about Jerry's book entitled, Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear? The child of a raped housekeeper who was deaf, mute, and poor, Jerry Smith had trouble before he even started. Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear takes readers through disappointments and failures as Jerry does his best to battle overwhelming odds with a deck seemingly stacked against him. Did God give Jerry more than he could bear? As an aging Jerry ponders this very question, he is diagnosed with an untreatable and terminal lung disease. Now, with nowhere left to turn and a deadline with fate, God then reveals his plan for Jerry's life. Now cured of his previously incurable disease, but still suffering the damage caused, Jerry has been given a new direction and shares with readers and people that he talks to his struggles, stories, and wisdom. In these recollections, he reveals hope, a light for the darkest days, years, and even decades. Jerry's story is the perfect example of how God will use anything for good, even when it is most unlikely. He now lives to share his story, the hope he has, and how the lessons he learned can change lives. When I come back from this 2-minute commercial break, X-Zone Nation, Jerry Smith is my special guest. His website, www.jerrysmith.org. Once again, the name of Jerry's book is Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear? And once again, his website is www.jerrysmith.org. And we'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the X-Zone starts for tonight, here in the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. I'll be back in 2 minutes with Jerry Smith. Don't go away.
It was almost Christmas time, and there I stood in another line, trying to buy that last gift or two, not really in the Christmas mood. Standing right in front of me was a little boy waiting anxiously, pacing round like little boys do, and in his hands he held a pair of shoes, and his clothes were worn. Do you hear what I hear? What I hear? What I hear? Said the night wind to the little lamb. Do you see what I see? See what I see? Way up in the sky, little lamb. Do you see what I see? See what I see? A star dancing in the night with a tail as big as a kite, with the tail as big as a kite. Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy, do you hear what I hear?
X-Zone Nation, Jerry Smith is my special guest this hour. We're going to be talking to Jerry about a book that is going to touch lives in very special ways because it asks a very important question, a question that many people have asked. Does God give us more than we can bear? Joining me now from Dallas, Texas, is Jerry Smith. And Jerry, thank you very much for joining us tonight here in the X-Zone.
Thank you for having me.
Jerry, your story is one of wonderment, to say the least. I had the pleasure of talking to you earlier today about many subjects, and I was wondering if you could share with the listeners the story behind the story. Why did you write, Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear?
Okay. The way my life went from all of the tragedies that I had suffered up until the time of about 25, and I started to search for my mother, 3-year search, and I found her, and I only found more bad news, and but from that point on, I was still filled with anger and hate and depression, but I started having a driving need to tell my story. Now, only in telling it. So I would tell it to every friend that we made, every family. And I seemed to get some kind of therapy out of it, I believe, in looking back at it. Mm-hmm. But I never intended or wanted to write a book, and so I never did up until I was diagnosed with an incurable lung disease. So then as I progressed on up to age 64, and I developed this incurable lung disease, and I go through all the ups and downs of the anger and hatred and depression and screaming at God. God, why did you allow me to get this incurable disease now at age 64 after all I felt like all you put me through? And so, on the other hand, then, when after worrying all weekend from the diagnosis, I started going through a pity party, I called it, where I started remembering everything in my life and blaming God for every bit of it. So when I finished the pity party. I said, wait a minute, what am I going to do here? I've fought all my life. I'm not a quitter. So then that's when I started searching on the internet worldwide, and it took several weeks of no's. But finally, after I felt like I had exhausted everything I could think of and just didn't have any other place to go and was about ready to quit again, I got this strong feeling, almost a voice in my mind that said, have you tried looking for a doctor with a lab? Well, you can only find that situation in Europe, it would appear. So I did that. I found a doctor. The doctor cured me over a period of about 16 to 18 months. After that happened, I started receiving calls. I mean, I don't know how they got onto my case so quick. Some had gone on the internet and found a doctor for their case, and he started referring them. But somehow it spread. And at that point, the more people I talked to, the more would say, have you written a book? I really need, there's a lot of people out there that are suffering these illnesses and diseases, and they need this information. Well, that was just the seed that started it. I felt like, as I'd felt my entire life, I can't write it. I'm not prepared, qualified, trained to write anything, and I've been the type of person that was, all my life, I was really didn't want to jump out and start something if I didn't think I could do it. I didn't want maybe the embarrassment to see that I couldn't do something. And so I fought it. But then something strange started happening. It was strange in the beginning, at least. That was I started getting this nagging thought in my mind, you've got to write this story. And it reminded me of when you hear a song sometime on the radio that it strikes you, and the rest of the day you can't get rid of it, but you get tired of hearing it in your mind. Well, I got tired of hearing this voice in my mind, and it went on for about a month, and I realized afterwards that God was putting it in my mind. This was His purpose for my life, and this was the time frame of His purpose, and so I started developing what sounded almost like just noise in the head, just noise in my mind, and it got so strong, it became almost like 24 hours a day. I got to where I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything, and that's when I realized, well, this is God, and I can't seem to beat it.
Now, for our listeners, Jerry, I was wondering if you could tell them what the disease was, the terminal disease that you were suffering with, and how it was diagnosed, and what the doctors basically told you.
Okay, when I went in for just a complete physical at the age of 64, I was feeling good. I had no reason to suspect anything. It was just that obligation that you need that complete physical every so often. So I went in and I found with chest x-rays I had spots on my lungs. And they seriously said, you need to see a pulmonary specialist as soon as possible. So I find one. He sends me to have the various tests. And then that leads to other tests, and then I'm in the office sitting down, and he looks at me, and he reads the file, and he says, well, Jerry, I guess all I can do is give you the worst diagnosis I could give any patient, and he shut up again. And I said, okay, what is it? He says, well, you have pulmonary fibrosis. It is an untreatable, incurable lung disease where a disease attacks your lungs, deadens those spots, the damage is irreversible, and there's usually a short time to live. And I said, okay, what about medicine and treatment?
Yes.
Well, there isn't any. He said, there's no medicine, no treatment, no cure worldwide. We've known about this disease for 25 years or so, but we don't know what causes it. And to the best of my knowledge at this time, which was back in 2004, he says, I don't know of any research taking place in this country. And then he just went on to say, in another moment, he said, this basically is a death sentence with no hope.
How? You know what? I can't even imagine what was going through your mind and your heart at that very moment. You know, here you're being handed a death sentence by a doctor, and you didn't feel, and you felt fine.
I felt fine. But evidently it was just the timing that he said, well, I said, okay, well, if there's no medicine or treatment, then what do we do at this point?
Yes.
And he says, well, you come back in 6 months for another breathing test to determine the lung capacity. And I said, there's nothing else you do, and what, does that help me? No. Well, what's the purpose? He said, so I can better estimate how much time you have left to live.
Oh, heavens.
And so we were crushed. My wife and I were instantly crushed.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I went home on a Friday evening, which is I guess the worst time of a week to ever get the worst news, because you've got a weekend that nobody's around, you're not working, you're not doing anything, and it's quiet and dead, and that's a kind of a ironic term to say a dead weekend when you've just been told you're dying.
Exactly.
You know, and so, but this doctor, I think he was just trying to be as honest with you, as he could. So, but the point I was getting back to was that, so I go home, and within just a few weeks, now let me back up to say that, well, I was feeling some things for the last couple of months, because I used to run 4 miles a day, 5 days a week, and I'd done it for 20 years. Well, I had noticed the last few months that I was running into some difficulty before I could complete the 4 miles, and being maybe just a man's, theory and ideas. Oh, it's age.
Yes.
So I'll just have to back off a little bit. It's normal, age 64 and so forth and so forth. Well, then these things just continued to aggravate, and then over the period of the next 6 months, I felt everything that he was telling me I was going to feel, or that was going to happen. I could not run. I stopped running completely. I started trying just to walk, and that started getting harder. All the exertion started getting harder, and over the next 6 to 8 months, it was just, I guess it was, at that point, the lung capacity had dropped all the way to 63%, which, try imagining giving, away 40% of your lung capacity and see what you can do. You'd be surprised.
Yes. Jerry, you're faced with this horrible news. The doctor is saying that basically there's nothing we can do except wait. Your wife and yourself, I'm sure it was the worst weekend of your life. Were you able to find any inner peace, though?
Well, not through. I went through a segment here. My wife started receiving some phone calls because they knew that we were going to the doctor and they wanted the reports. Well, she'd get on the phone and would start to talk, and invariably the truth would just come really quickly. And I'll have to call you back. I can't talk.
Right.
And so it was. So what I was doing was I was going from tremendous rage to severe depression, loud and quiet. And this battle was going back and forth so much that I was just out of control. And this went on for almost the entire weekend. And I guess when I actually started screaming at God, and I look back now, and the irony of that fact is I had screamed at God several times throughout my life, when my wife was murdered and my grandson was killed at 15 and all these various things. And I would question him. And then I would turn around and say, I don't believe in God anyway. But yet, it was so contradictory in the fact that I was calling on God, telling him I didn't believe in him, but asking him why he was doing this to me. So, through that weekend, I went from that stage to back and forth. And then when that caused me to go back and review every single thing God had allowed me to experience, in my opinion, then that's when almost the weekend was over. Then
Jerry, you and I have to. Jerry, we've got to take a commercial break with the news, my friend. Please stand by.
Okay, sure.
X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Jerry Smith. We're talking about Jerry's book, Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear? God bless him. He certainly has had his share. And on the other side of the news, we're going to tell you how everything turned around. There is a happy ending. We'll be back on the other side of this break. X-Zone Nation, don't go away.
Hi, this is Bill Federer from AmericanMinute.com, wishing Rob McConnell and all the members of the X-Zone Nation a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Jerry Smith. His website is www.jerrysmith.org. And Jerry is the author of Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear? Now, just understand this, Exonation, that Jerry was the child of a raped housekeeper who was deaf, mute, and poor. Jerry had trouble before he even started. Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear takes readers through disappointments and failures as Jerry does his best to overcome overwhelming odds with the deck seemingly, Exonation, stacked against him. Now, did God give Jerry more than he could bear? As an aging Jerry ponders this very question, he is diagnosed with an untreatable and terminal lung disease, goes to the doctor, has x-rays, and the doctor basically says, "You're going to die." He was handed a death sentence, a death warrant. And with nowhere left to turn and a deadline with fate, God then reveals his plan for Jerry's life. I'm happy to say, Exonation, that Jerry is now cured of his previously incurable disease, but still suffering the damage caused. Jerry has been given new direction, and he shares with everyone who will listen to his story, read his books, listen to him on the radio, about his struggles, stories, and wisdom. Now, in these recollections, he reveals hope, a light for the darkest days, years, and even decades. Jerry's story is a perfect example, and I'm going to underline perfect example, of how God will use anything for good, even when it seems most unlikely. Jerry now lives to share his story, the hope he has, and the lessons he has learned, and all he wants to do is change lives, make the difference in a life each and every day. His website, once again, is www.jerrysmith.org, and the name of his book is Does God Give Us More Than We Can Bear? First of all, Jerry, thank you very much for joining us tonight and sharing this remarkable story. I don't know how, Jerry, you found the strength to continue. That in itself is, in my humble opinion, a miracle. Because, we were talking that you're off air that your wife was murdered. You lost a 15-year-old grandson. You were very depressed. Everything seemed to be stacking against you, and then you go to the doctor and you're diagnosed with this terminal disease. How did you turn, or how was everything turned around?
Well, I think it goes back to the beginning with the fact that when I was moved 4 times every 6 months from 1 year of age to about 4, where my mother got married, she came, got me, took me to live with her, with the family. The husband didn't want me, so he filed for divorce to make her to get rid of me. She took me to a lady friend that couldn't get pregnant. She was going to adopt me. She got pregnant before the 6-month waiting period to become final, and she canceled the adoption. So she took me to her brother in Monroe, Louisiana, that said, well, he would raise me. He was 35 years old. Less than 6 months, he died of a massive heart attack. And then she came back again. Each time was coming from California. The 4th time, there was nobody left that would take me. She called the welfare office. They said, we'll take him only if you sign a release so he can be placed for adoption. She refused to do that, so she had someone drive her and I to the door the next morning, pinned a note on my shirt with my name on it, told me to knock on the door, and then when I did and turned around, the car was driving off. I was 4.5 years old and never saw her. Didn't see her again until I was 25 and spent 3 years searching. Well, from that point on through the foster care, which was actually was a farm, and we worked like slave hands or just farm hands. But anyway, everything I did from that point on through my life was like a dead end, and I learned, I think it must have been God from the beginning that gave me this separate sense that I just kept trying no matter how hard to get through each particular thing that happened to me. Right on through high school, I got out and I tried to get a job. A recession was going on, so I went to college, worked my way through college. And every roadblock, I didn't know this, of course, until my later years, that I realize now, I look back, that God was giving me this extra drive. So when this all goes through, right up through after my grandson was killed, then I attempted suicide. I was in a coma 5 days. When I came out, then I had an unusually large number of people that really wanted to turn my life around, and I realized at that age that I was very sick of being angry and depressed for about 52 years. That was the age. And so I started thinking, well, I need to seek a higher power, and that had to be God. So, and that was just before I finally found out that God had been in my life. So then we started looking for churches. We found one we liked. We got into the Bible, and it hit me right between the eyes. If you ever want to be truly happy, you have to get rid of the anger. The only way you're ever going to get rid of the anger is you're going to have to forgive all of those people that wronged you, and it'll go away. Well, that sounds like when some people say that, sounds like, well, okay, you just simply, pray to God, and I want to forgive these people, and it's done. No, it was about a 2-year process for me, and it was like take 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
But over 2 years, I actually saw the happiness start to grow. I saw the anger start to slip away, and I saw the changes in my life. And so we got very happy with the church, with the Bible, and this started working. And I started what amounted to about 12 or 13 years of the happiest years of my entire life, from that 52 to 64, when I'm then diagnosed with, you've got a death sentence.
Now, thank God you are cured. How did that happen, especially since the doctor that you went to initially, who made the diagnosis, said basically, hey, you're going to die, there's nothing we can do? What happened? How did this all get turned around?
This is the controversy that goes on in this country, in the United States. And the point being that they don't even really present the disease like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't even know what pulmonary fibrosis is. But secondly, all the doctors that treat or don't treat, they automatically say it's an incurable disease. Pulmonary fibrosis is not even a disease. That fibrosis is scarring of the lungs that was damaged by a disease. And I learned that there are so many diseases that can attack the lungs, and most of them, I believe, are in the autoimmune family, which means things we eat and drink and breathe and all that can cause so many various things.
Mm-hmm.
So when that attacks, you've got to really, I believe the only way you can have a chance is to do what I ultimately did, and that is to find a doctor with a lab. I'm saying that in most countries, or at least in the United States, you could never find a doctor with a lab that says, send me your blood, and I'll analyze it. And to explain how I was treated, after all this searching, and I find, well, let me even back up. After everything is over and done, and you don't find any help, then the thought hits your mind, what about a doctor with a lab? And when you pull up one doctor
mm-hmm.
in Germany that's had a lab for 25 years, contact him. He doesn't know anything about pulmonary fibrosis except it's incurable. Have you ever treated a patient with that? No, I haven't. Have you researched pulmonary fibrosis? No, I haven't. And then he pauses and says, if you're willing to send me a sample of your blood, I'm willing to analyze it. If I can find a culprit, as he called it, I'll be willing to research it. And if I can find any kind of a serum or medicine, I will make that. And he said, let me tell you, I don't say that I can cure you, but I really think I can improve your quality of life. We went through that. He eventually made a serum. I sent him 200 cc's of my blood to mix with that serum. He processed that through an ozone oxidation treatment, which is 100% pure oxygen. We went and picked it up and got all the instruction. My wife gave me 2 shots a day every other day. I took 2 drops a day every day for about 8 months, and I kept going to my pulmonary doctor and having the breathing test. My lung capacity quit dropping, leveled off during that 8-month serum. We sent that report to Germany along with another sample of blood.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor analyzed it, and he emailed me excitedly. Jerry, he says, this proves that I chose the right culprit. I'm going to make a second batch now, about another 8-month batch. I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to make it stronger. And he said these exact words to my wife. When you finish this second batch, you will be cured. 8 months later, I was cured. My pulmonary doctor says, Jerry, you're in remission. It's not possible. I don't believe it, but you are.
Did the doctor, your pulmonary specialist, did he question you on what you were doing or how this happened?
No, and I'm surprised because I wouldn't tell him. I got put down so many times by doctors when I was trying to find someone to draw this 20 cc's of blood to be sent to be analyzed.
Mm-hmm.
I went to 8 doctors around the Dallas area. Everybody, of course, wants to know, well, why do you want us to draw your blood and give it back to you?
Yeah.
So when you tell them, they say, oh, you don't want to do that. That's wasting your time and money, or that's voodoo medicine, or it's outside the AMA box. And they didn't do it. So I ended up having to eventually go to Fort Worth, Texas, and the doctor that was a homeopathic doctor.
Right.
So every time he would draw the blood, and that's how I was able to get it done.
I'm sitting here and I'm just imagining listeners saying, what is wrong with the system when a doctor in the United States tells you point blank that, hey, you're going to die, there's nothing we can do about it. And then you, the patient, who has the burden of hearing this horrific news, has to go out, find a doctor with a lab who is good enough to help you, and he's very honest with you right up front.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, how many other people are suffering from diseases that they have been told are terminal just because the doctors really don't want to take that extra step, take that extra bit of care, take that initiative like the doctor in Germany did. It's criminal. Well, I'm told that in the United States that is because of the AMA partially, and also because of insurance and regulations. And to give you another insight, I started receiving so many calls and telling people, or not telling them what I did and offering them hope to go over there and find out, because this doctor was willing to do this analysis, and he would tell you up front what he thought he could do or not do, and there was no obligation for you to go through with it. Wow.
So it was like another opinion. But the sidelight about that blood, I think your listeners would be interested in. That wasn't just Jerry Smith that couldn't get his blood drawn. The very first guy to call me was an Army veteran from Florida that had served in Desert Storm. He developed something over there. The Army discharged him over a period of years.
Mm-hmm.
He got some kind of lung disease, and his capacity dropped to 50% by the time he called me. He found my name from the doctor in Germany.
Right.
I took 3 different months to convince him to go. Well, the point I'm getting to is he finally decided to go. A week later, he calls me from Florida. Says, Jerry, where did you find the doctor to draw your blood and give it to you? In Naples, Florida. He said, I have not in a week been able to find anybody. So he would fly to Dallas, Fort Worth, rent a car, drive to Fort Worth,
heavens.
and have his blood drawn 5 or 6 times through his process of being treated, and he's been cured in the meantime.
Tell me, if you don't mind me asking, how much money did this cure cost you? Okay, the medicine itself for 2 batches, which was 16 months of treatment, cost me about $11,000. And Europe refunds you 19% of that total as a refund of the VAT tax, value-added tax, I guess. So you take about $11,000 less 19%. Now you got your flight to go over there. Right.
I used mileage, and then you got to stay in the hotel, and also incidentals. Those incidentals probably ran, if you had to figure in airfare, probably $3,000 or $4,000. So I would say under $15,000. Probably for 2 batches, and everybody would require different amounts.
Why I asked that was because Is there any way that you can? First of all, you can't put a price on your life. You really can't. But is there any, like when we're looking at $15,000 to save a life, and yet we spend so much money in bailouts of banks, of corporations, insurance companies, the auto industry, sending people, all the money that goes into the space project. Man, if they were to take this money and use it for people like yourself and other people who really need, and I'm sure there are many people listening tonight who are saying, yeah, geez, this is nice, but in today's economy, I can't even, it's hard to make ends meet. If the government would get off their high horse and really do something for the people, this would be great. We've got to take a commercial break, and please stand by because, this story has got to get out there, and people have to understand that the cure, just because you hear from one doctor that it's the end of the road, that's their opinion, and like you did, find another opinion. Don't give up. Life is very precious.
But Rob, I've had 5 other people from like Pittsburgh,
Wow.
Green Bay, L.A., and New York that I had referred eventually called me.
Okay, stand
to
by.
find out where I got my blood drawn.
All right, we've got to take our final break. Please stand by. Jerry Smith is my guest. jerrysmith.org. Don't go away.
I really can't
But
stay.
baby, it's cold outside.
I've got to go away.
But baby, it's cold.
Exonation, Jerry Smith is our special guest. Jerry's story is an incredible story. From the very beginning of his young life, it seemed as if the cards pertaining to life were stacked deck. His wife was murdered. His grandson, God bless him, died in a tragic car auto accident. Jerry, depressed, looked at committing suicide. Then later on in his life, he goes to a doctor for a regular checkup, and he was diagnosed with a terminal disease. The doctor basically said, too bad, you're going to die. That's about it. But Jerry didn't stop. Something inside of Jerry stirred. And Jerry went on the internet, found a doctor in Germany who was very honest with him, said, maybe I can help you, maybe I can't, but at least I'll try. Jerry is 100% cured today. 100% cured. And what Jerry wants to do is let you, the Exxon Nation, know, and he wants you to tell your friends, and he wants you to be part of this crusade that he's on to help people. And the question that he asks in his book is, does God give us more than we can bear? I don't think God does give us more than we can bear. And Jerry, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your story. What can people do who are listening to help you get this message out there?
Well, I've got to find a way to get, in front of a lot more people, or whether radio, TV, and whatever, to let them know that there is hope. And I'm telling many patients now in the last 2 years, don't listen to your doctor when he says it's a death sentence. Just go home and die. Mm-hmm. My very first belief was, you need to put your faith in God. If you don't have a God, maybe you should find one.
Yeah.
Put your faith in God totally and pray to God, and then do everything you can to help yourself, such as getting on the internet. I truly believe that the only way that they can get the kind of help that we need is to find doctors with their labs that will analyze you. But we've got to get this word out however we can to as many people.
I remember being told when I was a youth by a member of the clergy that God is there to help you. All you have to do is ask Him.
I firmly believe that, and I know now that, and I answer when I speak now, I answer the question at the end: does God give us more than we can bear? And my answer is a firm, resounding no. I know in analyzing my life and writing my book, which was very therapeutic for me, I can see it as plain as day. I could hear it in my head. God knew before I was born that I was going to live this life for the end result to be able to try to write a book and to speak to people to tell them that there is hope if they will just turn to Him, and they will seek alternative medicines in anywhere you have to go. And with the Internet now, we can go anywhere in the world, and help is out there. It's not going to look you up. You got to look it up.
That's right. Well, Jerry, our hour is up. First of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure that we've touched a couple of hearts tonight, and we're going to do everything we can, Jerry, to help you get this very important message out there. So once again, thank you very much. I look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone. And from everyone here to you and yours, a very Merry Christmas, a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous 2011. Jerry, are you there?
Yes, I am. And one quick thing. I don't know if I can tell you that.
Sure, we've got about 20 seconds.
I have to tell you about this weekend when you call me.
All right, I will be calling you. We're going to do something together, and like I said, I will help you any way I can.
Thank you so much, and I've got some information I want to tell you about how they can call me to get it.
All right.
It's a type printed sheet of my total experience of how I got the medicine and what I did, how you do it, where you go, and all of the ins and outs of getting your blood to hold.
We're going to share that with the X Zone Nation, but we've got to take a break. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't